another change in my voice. It's interesting that we see people pretend that there isn't a massive operation taking place here. I've never even heard of a researcher or an expert say something along the lines of, that the CIA and the government isn't experimenting with new drugs for social control. Okay? It is impossible to do research into technologies and materials and substances of social control, okay, and control in general, obviously, and to not come to the conclusion that they're still doing that. Also, when we look for the signs in society, okay, a change in behavior that reflects more obedience to the government in America than before, we see that. We see that there's whites, Jews, and LGBT people in charge, okay, and people are acting more like them than ever before. We see the appeal of Native Americans and black people and Asians and Hispanics and Semites and so on and so forth has been reduced more than ever. We see that a lot of white people are suffering, and that's, and there's poor Jews, poor whites, and I'm not saying there's not, but that's neither here nor there. That's American history. Look at the Great Depression, okay? Look at any period in American history. There was always poor white people. That didn't mean that there wasn't rich whites, Jews, and LGBT people manipulating things and abusing people. So all the symptoms are there. All the experts agree. And you don't see anyone doing anything about it, right? People aren't rallying. So we can immediately come to the conclusion that yes, that's what's going on. And and that people are they're exhibiting the traits of cowards for whatever reason. And no offense to anyone. Okay. So again, even the word coward is a play on words for a crowd, right? It's the word a crowd scramble. It's called an anagram. Okay? It's a well understood methodology for breaking down a word. And when we see it occur too often, it's deliberate. And we see many authors, for example, use words, right, that are anagrams, right? Cruella de Vil from 101 Dalmatians, her name is a well-known play on words for a cruel devil. Okay. It's pretty straightforward. We see the statistics with some of these new generations where they said, they claim that 30% of them identify as LGBT. Before it was only like 5%, right? So why do we see this six-fold increase in identity? Well, the purpose of social control, social engineering, right, is to change the sentiments, the moods, and behaviors of people, and that absolutely has to do with sexual behaviors. If you start dating differently, okay, you start having sex with different people than you otherwise would, right? Now, if you start changing your philosophy and you start reading magazines that tell you how to have sex and why to have sex and when to have sex, and you start following suit, okay, then you've changed your sexual behaviors. So a change of culture and dating patterns, okay, leads to a change in sexual patterns. And we absolutely see that. We see people acting like weird fairy perverts, to an extreme degree. And all of you know damn well what I'm talking about. How stupid is it to pretend that I'm wrong? Okay, and there's people that pretend that I'm wrong. Okay? The government is literally using technologies and substances and materials and psychology and coercion and peer pressure and economic terrorism to get people to change their sexual behavior. And kids are getting sexually abused at record rates, and nobody cares. If they cared, they would rally to do something. What are you afraid of? What's worse than your children getting raped and your neighbor's children getting raped? What are you so afraid of that's worse than that? Whatever happened to over my dead body? So their brains aren't functioning effectively. And regardless of what the reason, when people's brains aren't functioning effectively enough for them to have a bare minimum standard for morality or better, and a bare minimum behavior to be moral or better, it affects their offspring. There's no changing brain function without affecting the quality of your offspring's genes. It's basic epigenetics. So we know definitively that this sane man is going to feel moral outrage. He's going to feel righteous indignation. He's going to notice more of the details than the insane people. So when you see the insane people saying, oh, why is he so upset? I don't get it either. I don't get it. Huh? What's he mad about? Okay? It doesn't mean that I'm crazy and that they're not. It means that I'm sane and they're crazy, and no offense to anybody, but they're dumb on the spectrum. Okay?